My name is Wanta Jampijinpa Patrick. My father comes from the Eastern Snake clan group. He's what we consider Wanayaka. I'm called Wandari. Wandari means give. And I want to crown you lot with the original crown of this country, the Southern Cross. You can be called Australian. You'll be called Australia if you know the land, because it'll know you. Maintain the balance, live in harmony, because that's what the Ngatilka says. That's the whole name for Australia. Ngatilka means two mothers. Adoption is a big part in our ceremony too. That's why Darwin ceremony, our reconciliation ceremony, tells me that I should accept everyone, regardless of where they come from or what nation they are, if they adopt this country and the ways of this country. Matilda, I'm a guardian for that one. I'll do my best to teach you this. Normally you would go to ceremony and nearly half of your life you have to learn all these things and then teach others to pass it on. Warlpiri, pass the flame. Lose the flame and your identity doesn't exist anymore. In doing that, your country's identity is gone too. Nambulang murunga, wawarigalangula, manginyangawe kananganja. Yung kan kalagay, par paramera, wala orobia, wala chok. My job, I guess, what my country tells me through the ceremony is to pass on this knowledge, not keep it to myself. So this is why I'm telling this story. Yeah, my country, our country. So I want to share this knowledge about the ultimate kangaroo, the ultimate emu, and the ultimate gift.
How cool was that, man?
Nice,
Huh?
beautiful, huh? The drone footage and some of the stuff is amazing. Really
but
beautiful.
his voice, that singing voice seems to match the land when you're out there. I don't know how. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
So
all
anyway,
forget how beautiful
introduce our lovely
Australia is.
guest.
Anyway, we have
Introduce our lovely guest, and let's get on to it.
We have the honour of talking with Marc Peckham, apparently universally known as Monkey, which the reasons why might become clear by the end of the interview.
Yeah, that's one of the first questions.
How did you get to be called Monkey? And it's before we get to talking about the price of petrols and the end times, we might just ask him directly the background for that particular song, which is so beautiful. Yeah, Marc, are you there?
Yep, bring him
in. I'm here.
Here he is. He's in the middle. G'day, Monkey Marc. There's now I can hear you got an English accent there.
Welsh.
And Welsh. I'm North Wales. I'm from Penryn.
Oh, I was born in Cardiff in the south. Yeah.
Cardiff. Yeah, wow.
There you go.
That's met another Welshman yesterday. You never meet Welshmen anywhere now.
There's not many of us. No.
no, we don't travel much. But I grew up in Australia, I was a 5-pound pom, and one of the biggest shows of us growing up was Monkey Magic. Is this where the monkey comes from?
Magic, yeah. That's not where I got my name from, but I love that show, definitely.
Yeah. Can you imagine trying to pitch that show now? I want to do a Japanese version of a Chinese folk tale with all dubbed into bad English and shot badly and put it on prime time. Can you imagine going, yeah, that sounds like it'll work?
That's right. You never know, though, do you? You never know what's going to work.
No. So you're going to start, or we want to start with how a Welshman from Cardiff ends up in the middle of the Australian desert, helping the Indigenous with putting electronic music to this ancient, beautiful voices. So let's get going.
Yeah. You want me to talk? Yeah.
Yeah, man.
How I ended up here. Yeah. Well, emigrated here from Wales. Back in the late '80s with my parents. Moved to Sydney, and then it's funny because it's the desert. That whole existence is like the extreme opposite to where I grew up. I mean, I grew up in Cardiff,
That's
industrial city, South Wales. Very, very wet. A bit like the Territory at the moment. Very wet. And I guess actually, I studied geology after school. And that was my first introduction to the desert, working out in the first in Western New South Wales around Cobar and that area, and then out in Western Australia, Kew, Mount Magnet, in those kind of areas. Yep. And then from there on, ended up meeting a few Indigenous elders and living out remote in a place called Maree, which is in South Australia, right up on the Unadilla track. And because I've always had these skills of music and all sorts of things, I used to have a whole sound system running on solar power. I still do a solar power sound system, and we'd be remote. And these elders were like, "Well, look, because you have to do that because there's no power."
Yeah, either that or a generator.
Yeah, either that or a generator. But generator costs money to got to put the fuel in.
Yeah.
So this is a battery and a solar panel can get you a long way.
Yeah.
And my skills as a recording engineer, the elders were like, well, why don't you start doing stuff with the kids out here? And so I ended up working in just doing free workshops around Warlpiri and that area there.
Oh yeah.
For years, and then got invited to go out into the just northwest of Alice Springs in Yuendamu, up to Tanami. And then there it just spread out. And then it's been 25 years of living out in remote communities, doing everything from youth diversionary workshops to recording Indigenous knowledge and everything, hence an album like this comes out.
Yeah. Incredible. What incredible life journey. Yeah.
So can you go into the details of that song we just heard? What's the background to that particular song?
Yeah. Well,
do you call it a song or a video or what?
That's the thing, because really, what this is, the whole project of Crown and Country is a collaborative album and a film. So the album and the film match exactly, you know, so one goes over the other. So we made the album and music first, and then filmed that, you know, everything later, and then edited all that together. And also his father as well, Jerry Jangala Patrick. So it's this big, I guess, intergenerational cultural knowledge project encapsulated in an album and a film. But that particular song, he starts off talking about what his name is, because he's got two names. Of course, he's got his indigenous name is Stephen Patrick. The Patrick relates to the Irish settlers way back.
Yeah,
you know, kind of in an area where his family came in from. If you're in Alice Springs, I mean, you guys know the country fairly well, yeah. So if you're in Alice Springs and you go about 300 kilometers north, there's a little community called Warlpiri, and then if you go out from there, there's an area called Thompson's Rockholm. That's where his family is from. So his father walked in first contact in the 40s. You know, no idea of Western civilization and everything. Walked in around the age of 12, 13, 14, we're unsure. And then so that, you know, that's their particular area. So the initial name is, you know, Jerry Patrick and Stephen Patrick, which is kind of comes from the era of first contact and all of that kind of stuff. So what he's doing in this song is he's explaining his Aboriginal name that he also has, that he was given in ceremony, which is Wanta. His full name is Wanta Pau Jampijinpa Kulpulunu. Wanta is short for Wantari, which and Wantari is short for Wantari. So Wantari is the Milky Way, which is seen as the trading route, and Wanta, the shortened version, the trading route is seen as a gift to everyone on Earth, as in a gift, because once you know that trading route, you'll know how to kind of mark your path of life and how to survive on the land, that kind of thing. So Wanta is gift. So that's his name, Wanta, gift, which is what he starts talking about in that whole song.
Are you saying with the trading routes that they would use that to navigate across the land to trade?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were they trading?
Yeah. So like at certain times, a good example is like at certain times of the year, like for example, in October, when you have the Southern Cross, right, in the sky, and then you've got the 2 pointers. When the 2 pointers hit the horizon in the west, on the West Australian side, they see the 2 pointers as what they call a digging stick, and the digging stick was used by the women to dig up the yams in the ground. So as soon as the 2 pointers start hitting the horizon in the evening in October, that's the signal that all the yams are ripe. You know what I mean? So that's why that Milky Way and that gift road is so important. So once you learn how to read that, you know, you kind of, they're just very handy tools. I mean, we're talking remote area, very, very hard to survive. So if you can't read that, you're kind of in the shit a bit. So this is what he starts the whole thing with. Yeah.
When I was in Walloon, I interviewed these 4 Indigenous elders who were sitting around a campfire, women. Yeah, they're on the side of my bus in this great photo. And I live in a coaster bus, and I remember thinking my coaster bus is like a spaceship. It's the only way I can survive out there. You know, it's got water, it's got food, it's got everything I need. But I was sitting with these women saying, look, I've been in Australia since I was 5, but you women talk about the country like your mother. You can see where the food is. I see it like I'm on a hostile planet. And that if I walked off and couldn't see the bus, there'd be, oh my God, man lost in bush. Like it's a hostile environment. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if these people could teach our children, so if a child got lost in the bush in their particular area, they weren't terrified, because they're thinking that'd be fine. He's done the training. He knows where to find water, or she knows where to find water and food. I just wondered, I asked them why not doing that, because we don't see it like the mother. Every time a child goes missing in the bush, it's a white child or someone who's not Indigenous, the whole country loses its mind, you know?
Yeah.
And yet this is supposed to be our country.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, wouldn't it be great if that could be taught at schools? But I mean, you know, this is really why I think, you know, it would be an amazing thing for the education department from each different state to kind of incorporate Indigenous lawmakers or storytellers or whoever it may be that holds that knowledge to, you know, to teach that as a basic starting point. Because if you understand the country around you, then you understand the country. And then you can kind of, they just have very handy tools. I mean, they're talking remote area, very, very hard to survive. So if you can't read that, you're kind of in the shit a bit. So this is what he starts the whole thing with. Yeah.
When I was in Walloon, I interviewed these 4 Indigenous elders who were sitting around a campfire, women. And I remember thinking my coaster bus is like a spaceship. You know, like it's a hostile environment. Like, you know. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if that could be taught at schools? But I mean, it would be
I mean, it's only going to be a plus from there, whether it be a survival tactic or just an understanding as to why you can't walk in that area because of,
exactly.
some sort of
And
cultural.
what you can eat, what berries you can eat them. They'll keep you going.
What you can and what you can't.
Because one part of my last growing up in Perth, I mean, it was 45 degrees and we were doing these exams, and it was a survival quiz, and it was how to survive when your plane goes down in Alaska, and none of us had ever seen fucking snow, so we're just sitting there going, what would you take? And you're going, you wouldn't have no clue.
A lighter.
I'm thinking, why are we learning this about Australia, mate? Your fucking car breaks down up in on the road to Port Hedland on a dirt track. How do you survive until someone finds you? You know what I mean? So anyway, sorry to interrupt. It's just something I've always intrigued me about it, because especially yourself. I mean, out there in the rugged bush, you must yourself think it'd be great if I could know how to survive here, find water, find food, and not have that fear if I'm out away from my vehicle. I could cark it.
Well, I know a hell of a lot more now than I did 25 years ago, put it that way. I mean, I've probably worked on over 40 different Indigenous communities all across WA, NT, South Australia, and I've met.
How are you treated? Call you Mark or Monkey. How are you treated? Are you welcomed or treated with suspicion or just another bloody government officer? Or how are you generally treated, or you can't generalize?
Yeah, I mean, look, on Warlpiri country, which is where this album was made, in Lajamanu. I mean, I've been there for 15 years on and off, so I'm pretty much treated like family. So that's pretty handy. But it has its pros and cons. There's expectations, and then there's also just like any family, I guess.
Could you explain on that? Could you give us some explanations on that?
Yeah, share everything you've got.
There's a concept of skin names in Warlpiri culture. So and a lot of those cultures through the desert and going up into the top end. So you have a skin name. It was initially sort of put in place because tribes were quite small back in the day, and so it was put in place so that there wasn't intermarrying in smaller tribes and things like that, and everyone had their place. But it also comes with responsibility. So if I'm Jakamara, my skin, and Wanta is Jampijinpa. So I'm obligated to do things for him, and he's obligated to do things for me. So, I'm obligated, which can literally translate to things like, I mean, if you went back into the past, into history, it might translate to the fact that I have to give him a certain part of the kangaroo when I cook it. But in the modern day, it might just translate to, I'm the one who has to take him to the shop when he wants to go shopping, you know what I mean? It's just give and take. He gives me these amazing stories, and I have to kind of reply with, it's very give and take. I've got to look after him too, which could be mobile phone credit. It could be anything.
Yeah, I've noticed. Can I just go? You said about interbreeding, how they had these small groups and everyone known, so they knew about the perils of interbreeding before us white guys turned up.
Yeah,
they had a part of to stop that.
Yeah. The skin name system is there for many reasons, but because it also relates to where you are on country, it relates to plants, it relates to your different stars and your totems and stuff, but it also can relate to so exactly who your cousin is and who your sister is and who your brother is and who your father is. So you are basically given a particular skin group that you can marry into.
Okay.
And then that will make sure that you don't there is no kind of incestual stuff or whatever it may be. That person's not available, like maybe they've passed away or something, there's a second one in line too it's there as well. So they try and keep that as sort of locked as possible.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But in general, when you're asking about how does it go for a person like me going out onto these communities? I mean, you know how it is, like anywhere. It's like walking into a pub at the start, everyone's a little bit like, who's this guy?
That's right.
You've got to check people out. But in general, it's I've just had amazing experiences. I've always been welcomed, and I've worked everywhere from Groote Island, right up in the top end in the Gulf of Carpentaria. Right out in Columbaroo, Palm Island, Central Australia, Central West Australia.
What are the differences between the communities? Because you're going to so many different communities, and I know there's languages and customs. What's the difference? Because when I was interviewing an Indigenous woman up in Broome. She said to me, "You guys look at us wrong. You should look at us like Europe. The tribes are like there's Belgium, there's Holland, and you just look at us like one tribe. It's actually not. We've got different customs, different languages. Languages close. They can interact, but several tribes where they can't. Is this what you're finding?"
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Central Desert stuff is a little bit more similar, but there's obviously differences between, say, Pitjantjatjara and Warlpiri, or Jangala or Luritja. There's different cultures, different storylines, different areas have different parts of the dreaming, like the next part of the dreaming. So it's like all kind of puts the bigger picture, like a big book together. And when you go further north, languages can be very different. And of course, when you get right up north, they're quite heavily influenced by the Macassan traders. Especially like around Nhulunbuy and Yirrkala and Groote Island. So very, very different. Different attitudes, sometimes different skin names, different skin groups, similar concepts, but different words for those things. So there's quite a lot of difference. That there's similarities in the way that there's the general thoughts about how an Indigenous perspective kind of works, but there's big differences. And like you say, it would be similar to saying the difference between a Frenchman and a German, or someone from Poland.
Yeah.
So there are
French and Italian, English, German are slightly the same. We go someone like Poland is completely different.
Yeah, you get that Eastern European thing. Yeah, but that'd be like going to the top end, Arnhem Land to the desert. That'd almost be like that kind of difference.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a different concept of seeing it, so that there was real culture here,
So is the urge to preserve their culture, or you have to talk them into it basically, or spend a long time before you put them in front of a camera? How does it work? How long does it take?
Yeah, well,
a lot I know are very shy, shy of Westerners anyway.
Yeah, and there's not only the shyness, but there can often be like an lack of confidence in talking about culture sometimes, because so much has been lost. It's been very difficult for however many years out there. But in general, there's a real yearning for the preservation of culture and a reteaching of that culture.
One of the things that fascinates me is that there were also end of times or end of days beliefs within the Indigenous, that these were, it's in all the major faiths that this is basically the end times, that where something major is about to happen. And certainly, they've been bombing Qatar today, like, what the heck. So did you find any of that in the urge to culture, or what is your sense of that?
I guess I'm always I never go in with any quite, what I mean. I'm not the guy pushing the narrative, I guess, if you want to. I often just take
see what you explore.
Yeah, I'm the sponge, I guess, that just takes in whatever I'm being sort of told. Not often, John. Not often do I hear anything talked about that. Right. But then again, like when I go into things with these fellas, like we go into some real specifics about particular ceremonies or particular dreaming stuff, and often like there's just a band of knowledge that I'll focus right in on. So it's like, and that can take years. Like this album, for example, goes across a few topics, but if I really had the time in my life to take in all of Warlpiri culture, I could have an encyclopedia's worth of knowledge, So, wow. I'm just looking at this band here, and there's probably 1,000 other books or 1,000 other volumes, or however you want to say it. There's prophecies that they have out there. There is a prophecy about what they see is people coming from the north. There's a prophecy of that. A prophecy of the white man coming within Indigenous.
They got that one right.
They got that one right. Nicholas Rothwell is a great Australian writer. Wrote beautifully about this merging on the missions, the merging of Indigenous beliefs and Christian beliefs. And so they all sort of saw it all merged together into some sort of final thing. I was trying to find it a minute ago, but I can't find the right but anyway, he wrote very beautifully about it and how these beliefs merged together, and the coming of the white men was also a kind of sign of the end times. So it was, for them, certainly a very, the end of their former belief system, really.
Well, yeah, you can see it as that, and it's that difficult time. I mean, change is never easy, is it? So it's like whether it be, you can imagine, say, someone like Jerry Jangala, who's an interesting character. So he's 93 years old. Like I said, first contact, met Olive Pink was the first person he met. I'm not too sure if you know the history of Olive Pink, but she was kind of an I think she was an explorer in the Central Desert area. The Botanic Gardens in Alice Springs is called the Olive Pink Botanic Gardens. So she was quite a character. But he, full cultural understanding, literally came, his whole family were living the cultural way. And then he did end up in that missionary culture. And interestingly enough, he became a pastor. And he actually has a OEM of translating the Bible from English to Warlpiri.
Wow.
And it's always it's a contentious issue, right? Because there is a lot of damage that was done by missionary culture in the Central Desert and across Australia. But then on Jerry Jangala's side, who's a very religious man, he's got very interesting perspectives on Christianity and Indigenous culture. And sometimes when he breaks stories down for you, there's some fascinating stuff. Like, he'll break down, these long Bible parables, and then he'll stop, and then he'll tell you the entire parable of the Warlpiri that matches that parable. Because there's these similar, I guess it's like anything, similar teachings. There's similar, essences and things to learn about particular stories. Like, stories are there to, often with little messages for you to kind of pick up on. And I think that's what these guys are really, really good at. So when you're talking about that gelling of those two cultures, there's many ways to see it, but Jerry Jangala definitely has that deeper perspective. I wish I could get him on here, but he speaks pretty much fluent Warlpiri and very small English.
That was my next question to you.
Yeah.
Do you speak the language now?
I wish I did. I mean, working on 40-odd communities, multiple different dialects, very difficult to kind of pick up on things. But I understand a lot more than I speak. And Wanta, Jerry Jangala's son, is a very good translator. So I'm very lucky. Because the other thing is that Jerry Jangala speaks old Warlpiri. So it'd be like speaking old English. And Wanta speaks a more modern version of Warlpiri. And then there's a newer version again called Light Warlpiri, which is actually one of the newest languages to come about in the last 50-odd years. And that's like a kind of a breakdown. It's almost like a Creole version of Warlpiri that mixes other Indigenous languages around the area into it, more than English into it. So when it comes to translation and understanding Warlpiri, it depends which version of Warlpiri you're speaking. It's difficult. It's quite complicated.
Well, our Welsh language, I mean, we're both Welsh. I can't speak Welsh. My father speaks it fluently. Yeah. And it's so rare a language that he's 88. And when he gets scammers calling him, he talks to them in Welsh.
Brilliant.
And he has them on the phone going, speak English. And they listen to this. You'll hear him on the phone, two Pakistani voices going, that's a very strange language. You know what I mean? Because he's just speaking. But we've gone through the same. Oh, it's better than that. You know what? I swear to God, look, we just need to laugh at the moment. The world's in such a shit state. He's 88 years old. And you'll get on the phone and everything's in my mum's name. And she's got Parkinson's. She doesn't want to talk on the phone. So the people go, I need to speak to Florence. He goes in a Richard Burton accent, which I can't do. I'm Florence. I'm transgender. And he goes, they go silent for 10 seconds and then they just continue on with the conversation. So they got this old Welsh man trying to survive in this world. Sorry. But I'm saying we've got the same thing because I know from Welsh relatives I was speaking to, the Welsh are really trying to retain their culture, their language, one of the oldest languages in the English language, and poetry, and we had a king and everything. So it's kind of really interesting you're doing the same here that's actually happening in your old country as well. Yeah, that's right. But maybe if I stayed in Wales, I would have been doing it in Wales. Who knows? It's just, I don't know why you're doing it here, to be honest, because it's the match of the modern music and the old shows there's an evolution going on. new ways to tell old stories. Isn't this what we do? We always reinvent Shakespeare. This is basically you're reinventing for a whole new market. I think it's a really clever idea.
Well, that's the story of the prodigal son or other sort of major parables. How does that work?
The story of the prodigal son.
Well, is there something, or is there a similar myth in Warlpiri? Or
I wish I'd have Wanta on with me right now. Wanta, who's the main narrator. I always feel funny talking about stuff when it's not my it's not my place to tell you the.
Yeah, I get it.
And he tells it so well. So maybe we could do another session one day where I get him in. He's a full-time dialysis patient, unfortunately. So he's on.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get him in. So that would be a quick look. I tell you what, I'll give you his phone number. You can ring him up if you want. You can talk to him.
Are you finding the elders though with the knowledge? Is the next generation taking them? Because when I was at Mount Magnet, we were there to just see what the Indigenous thought of the voice. And so we're going to town after town saying, what do you think of the voice? You for it? You're against it? Most of them never heard of it, or no one had contacted them about it, which was really interesting. But then I met 3 elders in Mount Magnet that were all from the stolen generation. I recorded it. Their stories were just, well, they change you. Let's put it that way, how brutal it was. Yeah. But when they came back, their tribe's language is lost. They're relearning. They've got a local, the next tribe across is sort of sharing them their language and what they know. But this is like, say, country like, I don't know, Portugal that has suddenly lost its language. Imagine that. This is how profound it is. And these people here. And the stories they told, like the guy was in his 70s. And he said he finally escaped from the school, from wherever they took him, made it all the way back, and turned up. And his first thing his mum said, "Well, tomorrow you're going to get a job." Yeah, really hard thing. And then suddenly he's in tears with me next to our bus because this old pain's coming through. And I thought, extraordinary. You know what I mean? They've been through so much.
There's a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma for sure.
And how does that come out in the trauma come out? Is this why the drink or the drugs? Do you think this comes from old trauma that's hasn't been
self-medication, lack of services in these areas? I mean, the big lack of services like mental health services or counseling, things like that. These are remote areas where you're lucky enough to get one doctor that flies in every now and again, and the dentist comes in once every 3 months, so when it comes to things, and and then the sad thing is a lot of these key elders with a lot of these stories and a lot of this knowledge are passing away, and a lot of it hasn't been passed on. So there is a cultural loss. It's difficult. It's just there's a lot of lack of direction.
You can't get it back.
Yeah. And this is it. This is why these guys are very progressive. They see this is a massive issue. And as do most elders see that this is a big issue, and they really want to try and think of new ways of doing it. So they're really progressive. I mean, we're talking about a 93-year-old here who's willing to sing over this dub thing, music that I make, and make these kind of beautiful videos, escapes and stuff, because they're just looking for any particular way that will assist their culture, any new ways. Because they're like, well, what we've done in the past is some of it's worked, some of it hasn't, but we need to do everything we can because maybe we'll hit the right nail on the head of the thing. So, push it forward.
That's art. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yourself as a musician. Sometimes you get an inspiration, suddenly you got a song, it's beautiful, everything works. Other times you work on something for years, it still doesn't work. This is just
it's like this thing here. We made this in the desert. This took 5 years to make, out in the middle of Lajamanu. We had no idea the impact it would have or where it's going and stuff like that. But when we launched this in Melbourne, we launched it Australia-wide, but when we launched it in Melbourne, it was album of the week on 2 big independent community radio stations, PBS and FBI. So not FBI, Triple R. They're big, they got hundreds of thousands of listeners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when we did the launch in Melbourne, it was which was the video launch of the film. It was capacity 800 capacity sold out. So obviously there's people who are interested in as in the rest of Australia are interested in learning about culture.
Yeah.
But obviously also then to see the impact it was having on the community, the Indigenous community, because we took them to most of our launches. At our Darwin launch, we took the entire school from Lajamanu. We took the whole art centre, which are all the female elders. Most of the women are the painters in Lajamanu. And we took Jerry Jangala, 93-year-old, who hadn't been to Darwin's for about 20 years and didn't realize they built skyscrapers in the last 20 years. But, it was amazing, like it was just this.
Yeah,
and they were spun out. They were going, because they've been doing this for years with all sorts of stuff. And they were like, we just didn't think anyone was interested. Yeah. And now they're like, oh, wow. Yeah. People are interested. So it was a great community boost. And in fact, it's been such a boost that we're still out there. We're making a second one because they're so re-energized to do things. And also, currently writing a book. Shouldn't really talk about it, but things like that. So all these different things are starting to kind of come off it. Building websites, all these things. Because we've got all this knowledge. There's so much archival material. There's so much stuff that didn't get into the album and into the film because we've kind of had to sort of strip it back a bit and kind of because there's only so much you can say before it just gets too much of brain overload for
of course
the average person. So we need someone to put it. So we're expanding and aiding in that and also inspiring some of the younger generation out there to record their elders and record their stories. So that things can be happening in the background when we're not there as well. So
so are there concepts? Are there concepts in the music that aren't in Western music? Like, in Thai music, it's a lot of quarter tones, which we don't have. Is there a real?
Yeah, well, like Jerry Jangala's singing, like it's sort of this. The tone of his singing, that traditional singing, is almost atonal. Like it sort of fits over lots of things, and because it has this different rhythmic pattern. It's very different than it's not a 4/4, pattern. It's got one of the guys that we work with, a guy called Professor Aaron Korn. He wrote a great book called Law. He's a music. What do you call it? People who study music notation and stuff like that. And he writes it all down. Yeah, musicologists and stuff. But it's almost like Indian rhythmic intonation stuff. It's outside the Western realm of music, but it's sort of influenced a little by a lot of that kind of stuff as well. So very, very
like the Mongol throat. It doesn't sound like the Mongol throat singing, but it's sort of that old. It just sounds ancient.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking. It's coming from a man who was first contact. You couldn't get as original as you could. When I record Jerry Jangala, it feels like I'm pulling out a record that's been lost for a million years, and now we're just putting it on. It's just this very unique and interesting thing. I even taught him the concept of multi-tracking. So in music, when you record a band, in the olden days when you didn't have the technology, everything was in mono on one channel. But these days you can record, 80 channels of music, and they'll, the drums will be here and the bass is on this channel, the voice is on that channel. So I taught him about the concept of that because when he sings, normally he has his rhythm is the two boomerangs. So the two boomerangs are the clapsticks. So the multi-track idea was just we do the boomerangs on this microphone and then the singing on that microphone. So then it enables us to take the boomerangs in and out or use them in another section, and just experiment with different ways of working, because putting an old man's way of singing over this modern music is not easy. It doesn't come as easy as you think, but it does happen quite naturally at the same time. So it's a fun experiment, but it's not the usual, definitely.
And are these all ancient songs that he's remembered, or does he write new stuff himself? Because I've always thought before White Man turned up, if they had these big corroborees between tribes, surely they must have brought new songs, and they've got no way of recording them. They just sing them.
Now these are the songs. These are like the ancient songs.
Okay. So these are
the
ancient. These are the
This is what's been passed down for 60,000 years or whatever it is. This is it. This is the original. This is exactly the story. This is this section that only he can talk about. So for example, with him, his totem and dreaming is the number 7 boomerang. Number 7 boomerang is the killing boomerang. You know, the one that it's made out of the corner of the bottom of a tree. So that he's got that, and he also has the emu and the water dreaming. So there's a few dreamings that he can sing, because not everyone can sing everything. It's not like, you know, someone in a band going, I'm going to sing about this and this and this, whatever I want. No, you're born with that dreaming. It's passed down, you know, to you to sing. So he's singing that stuff that's been passed down from his grandfathers, you know.
So how many people speak Warlpiri? Is this the first time Warlpiri's been in presented to the wider world like this? And how big's the language group?
Look, I would say, I think off the top of my head, it must be like 4,000 or 5,000 people that speak Warlpiri. There has been a documentary in the past that was on SBS that was about Warlpiri culture and about this water dreaming area. It's called Napa Dreaming. And then there's also been the project that I've done with these guys before this, which is called Milpiri, which is a big festival. Milpiri is the big build-up cloud in the territory, you know, in the October, November, when it gets very hot.
Before the monsoon,
yeah, but it's just before the monsoon, you know. It's that build-up period that sends everybody Troppo and whatever else.
How about to send you Troppo, this boy from Cardiff? You're out there. I mean, no offense, but my tad's better than yours, and I'm in Perth. And
yeah.
So how are you not burned to a crisp? Because it's pretty intense country, you know.
It is pretty intense country. Yeah, you get used to it.
How do you deal with the heat?
Yeah. Let's put it this way. I mean, I don't think any of my family, they think I'm pretty crazy, you know, out there all the time. You know, I mean, when we left, it was 43 and 37 at night. You know, that kind of thing. So it's pretty. That was just a few weeks ago before the rains hit. So yeah, it's you deal with it. You just deal with it, you know.
I understand. It is remarkable with these stories. Do you know what some of these stories are saying? I mean, what are so important about these stories that they've survived 60,000 years? I mean, we still tell stories from Jesus. It's 2,000 years ago. This trumps that by a while. So what are the stories themselves?
I mean, there's stories of everything from just, you know, how to read certain parts of the land. Like, so for example, Jerry Jangala, you know, when he came from an area which was known as Northern Warlpiri country, which in language was called Waniaka. And Waniaka translates to snake and danger. Like, so it's called dangerous country because it's so flat, and it's an area that's so flat that the tribal groups from there were renowned all the way around Australia as being the toughest and the most hardy people, because to traverse that country was like borderline impossible. One wrong move and you miss the water hole, because there's no landmarks, there's no hills, so some of these stories in here you know, tell literal ways of actually getting across some of these parts of the country, finding these water holes. Yeah, so they're survival stories in a way.
Yeah.
And then also there's a lot of philosophy behind the story. So there's also stories of kind of you know, respect, and like stories of Jangala, which is this kind of concept of reconciliation, which is kind of the idea that at a certain ceremony you come in and you if you've got grievances with me over the last year, and John, you know, like I pissed you off somewhere down the track and whatever, we all come together and we're allowed to deal with it, you know, over a 2-week period, and we deal with it until we feel like we've dealt with it, and then the elders will go, yep, that looks like it's all been dealt with, and then we can move on to the next year going, that's cool,
resolution,
we're all good, we'll move on. But there's that concept Jampijinpa is in this, and then also they talk about the concept of Nurakulu, which is the concept of home, and how home is that inner flow within you is also connected to land, and how land flows into you, and how you have to listen to the land for you to understand the land, for you to progress. That's all through this. It's all through it. It's like a cultural document, really, that you probably have to listen to many times. I mean, I think when it comes out on a record, because we're pressing this on vinyl, on a French label, actually, out of Paris, funnily enough, called Acuphone. Wow. But when it comes out, we'll probably have some inner sleeves so that, you know, the listener can actually read what's going on and possibly then, link through to some of the deeper meanings behind what Jerry Jangala is singing about. Because there's often, like, Jangala will only, so often, for example, when you hear Jerry Jangala singing, there'll only be a moment of maybe, a minute and a half where he's singing, but that actual dreaming story and that song line that he sings, like when I record those, sometimes they're 10 hours long, and that's a story.
10 hours of singing. So that's...
Yeah. And like we do them in sections. So when I'm doing this little section, we pick a section out that he thinks summarizes it. But like, for example, there's a song on the album called Pecham. And what he's singing, he's singing the polka dreaming. But what he's actually singing is he's talking about the first moment of spring, and the when you really break it down to the most specific thing he's singing, what he's talking about is when the flowers open up and the pollen starts to go out and the bees come and get the pollen, and then that wakes up the rest of the land. So that's actually what he's singing about. So and then you can see how that's a part of.
Is that him?
Yeah, that's him. That's Jerry Jangala right there. Yeah.
Wow.
And we recorded him there. That's just outside of Lajamanu, about 10 kilometers up near a beautiful billabong. Yeah, with his favorite hat.
That's a beautiful picture.
That's a
drone
stunning
footage.
photo.
Yeah, and when you go that drone footage there, this one here,
that's fantastic.
That's about 160 kilometers to the southwest of Lajamanu. It's actually the old road to Tennant Creek. So now there's the highway, the Stewart Highway. The old road was just down one side of that. But we've got some of the footage in the actual film. You'll see flies across this, and that's a very, very prominent Warlpiri dreaming space, because it's also was where a lot of the different sides of the Warlpiri tribes would meet at a certain time of the year. And there's also a story in there around there's a Starman dreaming story that links to that one, which like I say, I'll let Wanta elaborate on all this kind of stuff, but there's a few amazing stories. So that particular hill is the men's dreaming, and when you look at that picture there, that's Wanta. The left side and that the dreaming there is that's good. That's story with Wanta. Yeah, that's Wanta. And then by the way, it's about 37 degrees when we recorded that in the afternoon. So it's much easier when I watch it on the film and listen to it. I think, that sounds nice. And I'm in my air-conditioned house going, oh, this sounds great. But when you're out there, it's no easy task.
Billion flies.
Oh, yeah. Well, I became an expert on EQing the sound of the fly out. And then there's Wanta there, with all the flames. Yeah,
that's a great picture too. Yeah.
That's a great. Yeah. Did you say you got an expert at cutting out the sound of the flies?
Yeah, part of what I'm actually, I'm a sound engineer, but also I do restoration for sound. So I'm quite good at taking, I can take the beep out of a truck if it was going in the background right now, So I can, I can attenuate the flies. Yes, it's pretty tedious.
I actually have polka here. I might put us just in the background, just have a listen to polka, and then we'll come back and finish the thing.
Yeah.
Jampijinpa iribra ngura kululko na iribra ngura kutakale pambalano yapa ngupanu ngujoku ngula kuluna kana wangam nyambula kamera la kana wangam ngula malun bala nyambijo ngura kulu kana irandu mujunyande yapaku ngula kana irane kula ngajunya ngumepa kulu yapa yang kujakal ngadinya no Warlpiri batu ngulaku jokor bakal marane pulla bakal marane kulu war kali marane yang walal jala ngula kalinya yang iri bram tunganili pulla ngujokale ngai bram tunganili ija dulu benare mane kulo ngale banyangu nguro ngane yang kipa mani jak ngoro wala jam anu ngapa kukola chokol pa manu ngalinyang.
The ultimate kangaroo. If you look at Australia, you can imagine the kangaroo lying on his back in the ground often with his legs sticking out and his arm, but they're being burned off. Yeah, that's the shape of Australia right there. That's all written in the way we cook the kangaroo, the way we cut him up and then bury it. The ground often it's facing east and facing west. And the laying of the kangaroo, the mouth, the head is facing east and the leg should be facing west. That way you'll understand this full story because it's all recorded in that cooking of the kangaroo. The mouth of Warlpiri River, that's a kangaroo's mouth. Up in Broome, there's the dinosaur's track, and the tracks lead into the water, the sea. Yeah, that's the bum. So it exited through there. You see those dinosaurs track in Broome? Yeah, that's the great Kananganja, the great emu. From there, you can see the whole Wanta, all of Australia, going in the middle part to Uluru area. Yeah, that's the digest system. Guess where the stomach is? The true stomach. Yeah, in the middle of Australia. The Uluru and Katajuda. Katajuda is many eggs. In Yapalo, you gotta feed your head as well, so it's stomach. It's a two stomach. The trimmings go to air stroke through that digest system, the trading route. It's been there for centuries. The whole digest system. We call it Wandaridari. That means a gift road. You will know and understand why it's called a gift road, because it's a trading route, the ultimate trading route. All its vein in the kangaroo are its smaller trading route, but the digest system from one end of the coast to another, that's the ultimate. This country is the ultimate kangaroo. But if you're coming from the northern of Australia, going down to South Australia, the Uluru from north and south, the Uluru becomes the heart, Kotororo. It pumps. And those are the songline kangaroo, all the way up to Kangaroo Island. Trading route. Remember the trading route is a digest system. The leg of a kangaroo is Northern Territory. The arms facing up is Cape York is the arms of the kangaroo. The little bit at Monkey Maya, yeah, the west coast. Yeah, it's a little bit of what's left of the tail. We see the trading route from one coast to another, the east coast to west coast. But because it's on the ground, often, yeah, it tend to make it arch inward. The backbone, yeah, there's a backbone, the Victoria, South Australia, and the bottom of the West Australia, that's all backbone. They say Tasmania is just one of the ears of the kangaroo. That's Australia.
I might just leave it there because it goes on for a bit.
But you get the idea.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. You know what I mean? There's just, yeah, and also how they're trying to make sense of their world. They don't have satellites. They don't have, you know what I mean? And so they're dreaming coming from that. But you've been out there. You know how harsh the land is. When they first came here, when they first got to this land and were learning how to survive here, it must have been such an extraordinary time, you know, knowing what to eat and experimenting with it, because when I'm out there, I can't see how anyone could possibly survive. I don't see any life, you know, most things seem to be dying and the sun's pounding down like an anvil. It always staggers me that people manage to flourish out here.
Yeah, you need to know some serious knowledge to be able to survive in these areas. Absolutely. Especially even west of where these guys are, you know, it's like, it's difficult country. There's no doubt about it. But hey, listen, if I got lost out there, I'd want one of those guys to be with me, definitely. Like,
yeah,
even with all my knowledge, I still, there's still a hell of a lot of stuff that I don't understand, and a hell of a lot of subtle things in the country that you can read that will aid you in finding waterholes and things like that, which are make or break.
Yeah, you could walk 20 k's or more to a waterhole daily, some of them.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think a few years ago we had a kid die of thirst within sight of suburbia. Man, do you remember that? Really? He went for a walk with some mates, had a tiff or something, walked home alone, got lost in the bush, and he was literally 200 meters away from a fence, couldn't see it. And 911, they kept calling 000, but they thought he was mucking around, and he died of thirst there. So this is kind of how we are. It's an interesting thing, to me, here, because I feel Australian, and I'm learning to love the bush as you travel around and see it. But you're always aware you're in a very harsh environment. I mean, that road to Cooper Pedy, where it's dead flat and it's just rocks. I mean, you could be on Mars for all you know, and I can't see how anything could survive. There's no trees. There's no anything.
It is barren. I know. Mad Max country. I know. It's tough. I used to live around there, so it is harsh country.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's difficult country. Definitely. But I mean, that's an area. So that's an interesting area that you pick up. So I work with the Yarrabunna people and the Cookitha people. That's that area there. Yeah. And they showed me where all the waterholes are. Like, not only where all the waterholes are, but basically their trading route followed the exact waterhole line. So it came up the Flinders, came across the southern end of Lake Eyre, and then came up to the top end and ended up in Mataranka. Hot springs.
So what are they trading?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Okay, for example, from the west coast, to be trading. They didn't have the ochre over there, so the ochre would come from the desert, bring the ochre out, swap it for shells and things. There's a whole bunch of different things trading.
But how did they cart it? Because they didn't have horses. They didn't have, so they just have to carry it. Plus, they got to have their food. So it's interesting to, and it's because when I was in Fitzroy Crossing.
Yeah.
And they said that they used to go down to Cairns. There was a trading route to Cairns. When I got to Cairns, I thought, why would you want to go back to a desert? You get here, this desert. It's all this lush rainforest and water and everything. Why would you want to spend 2 years walking back to the desert to go, here's a rock? I was actually asking them, how do they motivate themselves to go back?
Yeah, well, culture and country is strong for different people. I mean, that's the thing with these guys. That's what they talk about. You take them out of country, and it's like you're taking the heart away. And it doesn't matter how good you could be in the top end fishing barramundi. I mean, of course, everyone likes all that, but you take them back home, and that's when everything fits together. That's when all their stories fit together. That's when those song lines make sense. Their families are there. It's everything. So it's quite an important part. To us, it looks barren and difficult and harsh.
Yeah, I know. That's my point. And when I was with these women, they saw it a completely different way. They saw it as their mother. And I was thinking, I wish I could just have a sliver of seeing it the way you see it.
Yeah.
And how do we make that happen?
Yeah. But Warlpiri didn't even have a word for fish, because there was no fish. It was a desert. It's a desert. So they borrowed that word from the next tribal group to the north, which is where the bottom end of the Victoria River comes through from Western Australia. So it's just different, just very different reality. This is why it's important, isn't it? Why if we take a step back and
so important what you're doing.
That's the thing, and it's like and it's just scratching the surface. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's just so much more. And of course, as we say, so much has been lost in the past, and which is it's very hard for these communities to come to grips with all of that kind of stuff. But anything like this, I think, to enable that kind of not even the preservation, but the kind of continuation of some of these songlines and stories is really, really important for not just their communities, but for the rest of Australia.
Well, that was the interesting thing. When I was interviewing those three people from the lost generation or the stolen generation, they were both all in their 80s, and they were still together. It was a lovely conversation. But then their kids turned up and their grandkids, and they were all driving brand new 4-wheel drives, and they were all speaking English, and you saw the modern culture and the old culture together. Are you seeing that on these remote communities?
Yeah.
And how do they mesh without breaking down?
I mean, it can be extreme, you know, when you're dealing with an elder who was first contact, who speaks the oldest version of Warlpiri, who knows all the songlines, to a young kid who doesn't know much about his culture, speaks a slightly different version of Warlpiri. There's big cultural gaps. I mean, like, you know, it's hard to explain the cultural gap between a very, very ancient culture and this modern version of it. You know, it's extreme. So, but we try and make it work, and it's just difficult. And there's a lot of efforts in trying to kind of gel these two together, where this knowledge can be passed on. And like I say, some things are working and some things aren't. But it's just a matter of just experimenting and just seeing what resonates the best.
Be like a hip hop star meeting up with Shakespeare.
Yeah, hip-hop, yeah, exactly, totally. I mean, you know, you never know until you try it out.
Yeah.
So how is the outside world seen? As a place of threat, or curious about it, or they never even think about it? What? No,
they're curious. You know, the outside world is full of, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken and you know, YouTube and phones and nice, you know, good cars that can get you to, you know, to the city and stuff. So it's, you know, there's a lot of temptation, you know. So, you know, just like any younger generation, like, you know, your kids or grandkids, you know, everybody wants the next big thing and the next best thing. So yeah, it's seen as you know, it's seen as a bit of a luxury. It's very different. I mean, of course, Lajamanu compared to Darwin they're very different places. But
is petrol sniffing or anything like that a problem in that area?
It used to be. It used to be further, just a bit further south of there, like around Yundamu.
So I've been to Annabella, for instance, where it was just chronic at one point.
Yeah,
you had to park your car up to a shed so they couldn't get to the petrol cap and all of that.
Well, for many
These
years,
kids were all dead by about 20 something. They didn't live very long, and it was and you'd see kids like 8 or 10 years old out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning dancing around the fire. You know, it's just with a tin of petrol permanently stuck under their nose. But it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I spent years doing workshops. Yeah, like anti-petrol sniffing workshops in those areas because it was so massive, and the issue was, especially in the late 90s and the early 2000s. But that a lot of that stopped these days. But
so that's all gone, or mostly gone.
I would say it's 99% gone, and it only appears every now and again these days. But it was still, you know, 10 years ago it was still around, not as much as it was probably when you were out, but you know, in the early 2000s it was pretty chronic. But you know how all that started, you know how all the petrol sniffing and all that. When the American soldiers first went through the Wumara rocket range area, they weren't allowed alcohol and things like that. So the American soldiers used to sniff petrol to get a
oh my God.
And a lot of the first contact for that South Australian mob in, you know, that Wumara rocket range. Yeah. A lot of the first contact was with American soldiers. And so the first thing they saw was people sniffing petrol, and they thought it was normal. They thought that's what white people did. They just thought every white person did it. And I remember working in communities and talking to kids about petrol sniffing, and they literally thought that the Western civilization had normalized petrol sniffing. They were like, they'd say things to me like, you know, when Eminem is rapping on that song there in that video, you know how he goes behind a curtain? I said, well, when he goes behind that curtain, he's having a quick sniff of petrol to come out and rap even better again. And I'm like, no, that is not the way it works. Like, you know, there's a very, very twisted concept of the reality of our because it's very alien worlds. You know, they can often be two alien worlds.
So they were emulating us, or thought they were emulating us.
They thought they were. They thought it was just normal.
Yeah, and we're looking at them going, "Why are you sniffing petrol for? Isn't that extraordinary?"
I know. Well, the American soldiers have a lot to answer for that one. I mean, who'd have thought that's a thing you could do anyway in the first place?
Yeah.
But I guess when you're remote and you're in those areas, and anyway, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But yeah, these days it's calmed down a bit, but it was a major issue. I mean, they changed the fuel out there for a long time. Now you can only buy Opal fuel, which you can't sniff. And when all government cars, and even my car is all diesel, and you can't sniff diesel. So you can try it. It doesn't do much.
Can I ask, how do you go where you've been out in the remote for a period of time and then you come back to Western civilization? You got air conditioning, cars, traffic lights, cameras watching every single thing you move, cameras watching other cameras watching everything you move, FPOS, or all the manner of shit. How do you deal with it?
I've always been okay. it just doesn't really affect me. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I just
You don't
I'm
come
just
here
like,
and crave to go back to the bush, or you're not in the bush craving to come back to air conditioning?
I am missing going back out there for sure. I mean, mainly because I still got stuff to do with this project, and I'm dealing with a 93-year-old man, you know, who every year I'm worried he's going to pass away, and his son his son Wanta, who's full-time dialysis complications. That's my main worry, is to get out there before anything happens to them. But when it comes
to capture this history that will be lost, I mean, if this man goes, he'll take things to the grave. You're unable to capture it. That's the tragedy, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that is tragedy. Yeah, but when I come to the cities, I mean, I slip into the cafes and enjoy my flat white, and you know, enjoy
another one. I want 4.
And they're dry communities out there, so you can't really. No, it's. I mean, you know, the city's full of all the luxury, so I can't complain. I just enjoy. I enjoy both worlds, really.
Yeah, it's great, man. Great way to live. Fantastic. Yeah.
So they've been bombing Qatar today. So that price of petrol is going to escalate considerably, and the Prime Minister's on the country today talking about petrol prices. I think they decided Chris Bowen as the sending him out to tell Australians not to panic buy petrol was a mistake. So now Albo's out there saying it's on Australians. So anyway, the point being, how is accelerated petrol prices going to affect these remote communities?
Yeah,
it'd be tough. It'd be really tough. I mean, you know, we left out there because we're supposed to be back there now, but the floods, you know, they've had these unprecedented floods, the highest rivers in the last 30 years out there. So we're flooded out. We can't get back. And there's a cyclone coming in the next few days too, so we can't get back to the cyclone. And then there's the war happening in the Middle East, of course, which is up in the petrol prices. It's all on.
But I know you want more, so we'll give you a set of steak knives too.
What else are you going to throw in the mix? But no, I mean, fuel out there is $3 a litre already.
Wow.
That's before this. And so when I left Darwin 3 weeks ago, before the conflict started, it was about $1.80 something. Now it's $2.70. So it's $1 more ish. Yeah, it's difficult, you know. Like, I mean, you travel like Lajamanu to Darwin is 900 kilometers, you know.
Yeah.
So and Lajamanu to Catherine. So that Catherine is the nearest big shop, you know. So Lajamanu is a very small shop, but if you want to go and go to a mechanic or, you know, go to Kmart, whatever, that's Catherine. That's 600 kilometers. So it's going to be it's going to be very, very difficult to be driving around, because I would say that the Lajamanu prices, if they go up by $1, that'll be $4 a litre. And then not only that, you know, there'll most probably be limitations on fuel. So it could be, I don't know. It's what do you do? We live in Australia. There's a massive freaking country, and fuel prices for one are going to be difficult, and we don't have fuel. And what else do we do? You know, maybe buy an electric car or whatever it is. But it's difficult.
Yeah, but you're not going to electric car 900 k's. I mean, I'm from Perth. I'm stuck in Perth because of the petrol prices. But Perth is like Los Angeles. It's a car town. Even the shops have huge car parks in front of them. You just drive in, buy stuff, drive out. Everything's car. If they bring in restrictions here,
it's difficult.
Yeah, it's extraordinary time.
I mean, Lajamanu, to get out of Lajamanu, you need a car, unless you're old school and you walk, you know, like these old fellas back in the day. But man, you know, even the closest community to Lajamanu is about 120 kilometers away, and so that's no close thing either. No. So it's going to be really difficult. The whole community itself also runs on diesel. You know, it's big generators that run out there as well, so that'll be difficult.
Oh, I see. So the generators run on diesel. So they not just their vehicles, but if the diesel goes, they're not going to power themselves.
Yeah, it's subsidized with a bit of solar, but I think it's predominantly diesel with a bit of solar battery as a backup. You know, if the diesel backs it. So yeah, man, it's just very, very hard. I don't know how they're going to deal with it.
If World War III breaks out, they'll be going back to their old traditions, walking 120 k's to visit their neighbours and all of that.
Yeah,
civilization does a full cycle.
We might be all doing it. We might go to extensive training.
I'm not walking to Perth.
I'm going back to Adelaide. I've got to walk to Nullarbor. I'll see you in 6 months.
On the plus side, maybe it'll you know, have a renewed interest in cultural, you know, knowledge, so that you can learn some of these skills. So you go, you know what, I don't want to walk 100k. Maybe there's a closer waterhole just down the road. maybe that would be a skill that kind of comes up. So,
be honest, I would love to be a part of that. I would love to be able to take to some part of Australia and be trained how to survive there and actually feel like, even though I'm not native to this land, that I have some semblance of the relationship that they have with it. Instead of seeing this hostile environment waiting to kill me, it's actually my mother. I can survive there. I do know where to get water. I remember some of the elders I spoke to sent me that, we follow the little birds, the tiny little birds, because they can't fly that fast. So they're there. They know there's water nearby.
Yeah.
And when you're out there in the bush and you're looking at these little birds, you're thinking, these are really hard to follow, you know, because they're like...
They're very fast.
Very fast. But I think it'd be the next evolution for... I can just see it, even with these new migrants coming in. This is the country you're going to live in now. Your kids are going to be here. This is how you can survive out here, you know?
Well, it's interesting when you talk about the birds being, small and fast. It's a documented fact that the Warlpiri actually have evolved eyesight. It's actually being studied. So these guys have some of the best eyesight in that area. Like, so compared to me driving, if I'm driving down the road and there's a kangaroo going to cross the road, Jerry Jangala, who's 93 years old, he'll tell me way earlier that there's a kangaroo up there, watch out when you're driving, than when I'll see it. Their eyesight is highly tuned.
Wow.
So it's really fascinating. So they've actually evolved. Like, there's the tribal group in is it around the Philippines in the ocean that dive, and they've got the extra big lungs.
Yes. And in Tibet, the Sherpas can survive. Yeah.
The Sherpas with the they can handle less oxygen and stuff like that. Well, Warlpiri have got better eyesight, documented.
Yeah.
Which is a great
thing. You're out there. If you look at a kangaroo, just the fact of trying to catch a kangaroo with a spear is an extraordinary accomplishment. These kangaroos are fast. They run away. You got to get this close, hit it with it really is quite an extraordinary achievement to survive in some of the harsher places in the country.
It is.
It
is, definitely. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, that's when's is the film going on anywhere soon? You got any other premieres coming off it, or can people find it online? I'm going to be posting the links.
Yeah, we haven't got it's not there. We haven't got a showing coming up, but what we are doing at the moment is we're in the process of turning it into an immersive film. So it'll be a film that's 4 or 5 screens and immersive sound, so like Dolby surround sound. Designing that for hopefully for a few museums and things like that, and maybe some festivals. So that's what we're working on, and then hopefully there'll be another showing really soon. So we had the launch August, September, and now now I'm writing a second album. That's news. There you go. I'm writing a second album. Just got to get it back out there to finish it. And then hopefully probably next year we'll release the immersive experience as well, and the vinyl record as well.
Wonderful.
Well,
now you didn't tell us where Monkey came from. We know it didn't come from Monkey Magic, and there's no monkeys in Australia as far as I know. So where did and I doubt that tribe has a name for monkey, since there's no monkeys in that. So where'd Monkey come from?
Yeah, I wish I could fly in a cloud like Monkey Magic. That'd be handy. Save me on fuel prices. Monkey, like I said earlier on, I got a degree in geology, and so I worked for about 4 or 5 years in the mining industry. And I used to go into I used to work in underground mines, gold mines to be specific, and my job was to go down and look after the miners and go into the areas after they'd done explosives and make it safe for the miner. So I'd have to go in and climb into these open stopes, they call them, like a big tunnel, open cavern, and without safety equipment. And so I became the monkey because I could go into areas where not many other people would, not only couldn't go, but didn't really want to go. So I became Monkey Mark. That's where my name came from.
You, brother, I hope you're writing a book, because you read it for a Welshman. You're living a very interesting life. I think it'd be a very fascinating book, brother. Yeah.
Thanks.
Most of the people back in Wales would be like going, what the? You know?
Oh, my family will think I'm pretty crazy,
But you're alive, you're living, and you're doing something.
I'm alive.
It's precious, man.
That's a fascinating interview. Well, a lot of people are
coming on, Mark. That's a really interesting.
Really interesting interview. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So much.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say, Johnny?
What's that?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're predicting recession in Australia, and nobody
It's
trusts
already
the
here, mate.
government. Yeah.
Once they
now
say
it's
they're
tipping into
predicting, that
depression.
means it's been here for like a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe the only peaceful places on Earth, or in Australia anyway, will be these remote communities. So I don't know.
I don't know. I'm actually strangely optimistic. Even if the depression hits, I saw a meme the other day that said, if you're not forming a tribe now, then you will fail in the future, because tribes are the only way we'll survive. Humans working together.
Yeah,
I actually think this is actually going to end the era of individual lives and actually have us working more together as we have to survive this, because it's going to be very, very tough. And I think even though it'll be hard, I actually got a feeling it might be better for us in the future, because you see the Indians now buying up all the business, but they're working together. Whether they work, they come in, they buy a business, they bring in the relatives or people on visas, and they make a business that we Australians can't make work because we're living up to all these government regulations. They ignore them and just come in and make it work. And maybe they're economic rationalists, and our period of having all these hoops we got to jump through is actually preventing us from digging our way out of this economic hole. So maybe working together is our future. Maybe there's some hope there.
Community.
Yeah, man. Well, look at you. Look at us from Wales. I mean, the Welsh are famous singers, the Irish are famous dancers, but the Welsh are famous singers often from places of real poverty, and this is how they come together, keep their spirits up. You know what I mean? This is
You're right. It can bring the best out of us for sure. Sometimes when you're pushed, the best things come out. It's not easy, but.
Any final words of wisdom, things that could be learnt from your experiences with the Indigenous? Yes.
I just think that, it's just important to take the time and listen, really. If you meet people like this, just take the time and just listen to them and just enjoy the experience, because there's a lot to be taught.
Well, that's a fascinating interview.
Beautiful. Because you're modernizing it. You're allowing people another window to enter the culture with. Mixing it up. I think it's very clever. Yeah.
Fascinating interview. It'd be very interesting to have you on again. So,
maybe
we'll get one.
It'd be great. That would be seriously great. Yeah, and a translator maybe. That'd be seriously great. Take care.
No, he's good. His English is pretty good. He's good.
Oh, fantastic.
Fine,
fantastic. Then definitely. It's fantastic. All right. I shall let you go, and we'll get this up on Sunday morning. I'll send you some links to it, Mark, so you can go from there. Yeah, go.
Right, thanks,
okay, and we're going to go out to Crowning Country. Okay.
Magic.
Take care. See ya. There we go.
My name is Wanta, Jampijinpa, Pau Kulpulono. Now I have to look for ways to feed the twigs and fan the last ash with the last bark to bring my clan up to date. Yeah, watch out for the Warlpiri, the last flame, the last spark. So I'm trying to find new way of presenting the identity of this country again. If the Bible can transfer the Old Testament into new, why don't we come up with a new book of reading country again? Now, we must find a new way of teaching the language again, to teach the law again, to teach the ceremonies again, and to teach the law of this country always. Otherwise, we will be overshadowed by a foreign one. Don't lose your language, don't lose your law, don't lose your ceremonies, and don't lose your skin name. They hold the history of you.